What's up, everybody? My name is Montez, and I want to welcome you all back to another episode of Infinite Grace TV, The Journey. If you're new to this channel, I create content for those who desire to unpack their stories, heal their wounds and traumas, and learn what it means to be whole. So if you're new to this channel, please do me a favor by supporting the community and subscribe, share, and like. Also, leave a comment below, something that was useful and helpful. Without further ado, let's hop into today's episode. So today is different. It's different. I'm doing something completely different, and actually I believe it'll be an extension of the podcast. And today I'm going to be sharing with this lovely young lady here, just like our story. If you can introduce yourself.
I am Janessa Cummings.
What do you do, Janessa? Like, what are you passionate about, Janessa?
I'm passionate about you. No, I am passionate about the Lord and kids ministry, sharing with young women, and I think our story is actually going to be really helpful for a lot of young women and men. Yeah,
dudes. I'm gonna start off by simply requesting that you don't do what I do. Like, learn from my mistakes. You know, if anything, yeah, you can learn from the successes, but the successes came with a whole lot of mistakes. And so we have something really cool to share at the end. So you got to stick around for that. But where do we start?
We started at the beginning.
Back, like back in time.
2016.
Like, she agrees with me now, but I've always thought, and I've always said, we were college sweethearts, and she didn't believe me.
I didn't.
But
I was like, no,
I had the receipts.
I didn't like you.
I had the receipts to prove that she was in love with me.
I was in love with him. In fact, I guess I just blocked that out.
She completely like disassociated all memories.
Yeah.
Because I mean, let me preface this story with this statement. It is a mess.
Toxic, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, we should not be here right now.
Alive? Or?
No, we should be we should not be together.
Yeah, I agree.
At all.
No.
In fact,
normal people would not be.
Yeah, but we're not normal. We're saved and bought by the blood of Jesus. Amen. Filled with Holy Spirit.
Praise God.
And this is why I say, just because you're a believer does not mean you're not dysfunctional. We were very unhealthy and dysfunctional, and there's some very, very practical applications at the end. We believe, will be very, very helpful for those who are trying to navigate relationships and maybe navigating situationships, because that's kind of what we had in a way.
Oh, forever. It was always a situationship.
Sheesh. Well, I'll start. Back in 2016, I went to a college by the name of Boyce College. Around New Year's Eve, I went to a conference called Crew, which is where I met your best friend at the time. And we're not going to say any names or anything throughout this whole entire story, but I met your best friend. And let me say, at my college, there wasn't a lot of Black Christian women whom I was attracted to. And so when I met your best friend, I was digging her,
He was.
Yeah. And so I shot my shot in a way without shooting my shot.
Telling her that you think that she's your future wife is not shooting
look. Like, I don't remember that.
Of course you don't.
I don't remember that, and I just think that's a fabricated, lost.
You think I could make that up?
Yeah, probably.
No.
Anyway.
So,
I was digging her a little bit, and then I believe we Skyped, and we still can't remember how we met. It was definitely through her, but I think we were all like on a Skype or something like that. But I then saw her, and I was like, oh my My. You sure look good. Anyways, shout out to Johnny Gill. I saw her and immediately, like, yeah, some would say fell in love. Nah, it was just a whole lot of infatuation.
Yeah.
And like I was like, really, really desiring relationship at that point. So it wasn't like, oh, I fell in love, and because ultimately, like, I didn't know that she would be sitting next to me in this capacity right now. But like, I just remember one, like, that feeling of holy crap. And for some people who have had this story where you saw, your future wife or whatnot, you was just like, oh my goodness, like, who that's kind of was that feeling. So I went from 0 to 100 real quick. I DM'd her. I was in a way, and I say in a way because you will learn later just how I really wasn't intentional, but I was intentional. I was intentional about getting to know her, and I was intentional about really befriending her. Where my intentionality waned, I wasn't direct with my intentions. Right. You tell that next part.
He went about it in a way where he was asking me for advice on a hypothetical girl that he liked to get my opinion and the things that I liked and valued and, appreciated about a man so that he could in turn become that man for me. But me thinking, oh, he's talking about some other girl. But I mean, looking back at the messages, it's very obvious because you're like, oh, she doesn't live here. She's in Indiana.
Yeah, it was super obvious. It wasn't direct.
Yeah.
Like, any person would have been like, bro, like, you're totally talking about me, but it just was not direct.
And we also had never met in person.
No, we didn't meet at that point. We actually met later that year. It was around maybe May or June of that year. But going back, like, I really liked her. We were really connecting very well. Like, we actually had a legitimate friendship. I just had feelings for her. And so, with that being said, like, we grew very close very, very quickly. Around April, to be exact, April 1st.
April Fool's Day.
That's when I decided.
The worst day of the year. His favorite holiday.
Yeah, I love pranking people, but this one was
just...
This is
not a funny prank.
No, it wasn't a prank. No, I was dead serious. This was a way I was... Let's call it. It's a duck, right? I was manipulating the situation by telling you...
protecting yourself.
It was still like manipulation. It wasn't.
It wasn't
sure. Honorable at all. So I told her on April Fool's Day that I have feelings for her because I was extremely terrified of rejection, which men are very terrified of rejection. I didn't have, and I realized now in hindsight, right, because it's 2020, I realized that a lot of that stemmed from like not having the proper training on how to approach women and be direct. Like, it's easy to hide behind a screen and hide behind a phone call and stuff like that. So I had more confidence doing that than I did like just being like, hey, from the jump, because you were on a relationship fast. And so part of that fear was like, oh, if I tell her, like, she gonna cut me off, like it's OD. And you probably would have. I
probably would have, because I already wasn't talking to any guys anyway.
Yeah.
You were the only one that I would talk to.
And so, yeah, fellas, if you like a girl, just be real.
Yeah.
Be direct. So, it backfired again.
Yeah, because what do you mean? Oh, I like you. Just kidding.
No, I didn't say that. I was real. And you told me that you liked me. But then we were talking for a few weeks around this time. This is also like during the passing of your father and everything. So it was very, very hard for you. So we're talking, and then out of nowhere, you hit me with the okie doke. I mean, warranted. I definitely deserved it, but you hit me with that. I ain't really feeling you, feeling this.
Sorry.
And I was hurt. Like, I invited her to my college to go to my spring formal and all that stuff. And you was like, I don't want to do none of that.
Right. Hit the road.
Yeah.
I don't want to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, then later that year, around May, June, one night we meet in person for the first time. I go to IU because that's where she went to school. And that's when it hit me because I wasn't aware, like the thing, she never told me exactly, right, why she didn't want to talk.
I was terrible at communication at that time. Like I couldn't like communicate to save my life. I would just block and deal with it later.
I mean,
yeah.
Toxic. Super toxic.
Yeah.
But praise God for,
we're not there anymore.
Come on, Jesus.
Amen.
So, we met in person. I was aware at that moment around when I left, oh crap, like the reason this is the way it is because of me. And then I went back to IU maybe a few weeks later. I'm not really for sure when. I pulled her to the side. I apologized. What did I do?
He was praying for me, talking about, I really just want to pursue you.
And praise the Lord, right? I learned from wisdom.
He was very direct. Like he told me his intentions and how he wanted to go about it.
But you were still in a relationship fast at the time.
Yeah. So I could not date anyone until November. And he knew that. I was on a 1-year relationship fast. And I was like, not right now. We can wait.
And y'all, I was like, I didn't want to wait. Like, I mean, keep it a stack. So I ended up pursuing somebody else. Like, I was just like, look, I ain't gonna wait. And I went on about my business. But we didn't really like talk much after that. We both got in relationships. And I would love for you to shed your light a little bit on like your relationship towards when we get to 2021. But we both get in relationships. We were on and off talking at that point from 2016 all the way up to 2021 when I became a youth pastor. And at this point, I think we were good. We were on good terms. We weren't talking all the time, but we were good enough where we were like following each other or whatnot. And then I reached out to her and I was just going through and I was inviting people to speak, putting people on the calendar. And I reached out to her and I asked her if she would like to speak to the students. Now, I want to preface this by saying I was not even thinking about this woman in that way anymore. I was minding my business and I'm like, oh, I know Janessa has a heart for kids. Like, I would love for her to come speak.
Yeah.
I mean, we were good, things like have been hashed out or whatever. And I'm like, man, I just, I haven't talked to my friend in a while. Like, I would love, to invite, to come down or whatever, or up. And when I did, I think that was, when I invited you, it was when you came, I believe that thought popped in my head. What if this is your wife? And I literally was like, what? Her? Absolutely not. Like, I remember I prayed for you in 2016.
Dang.
Right? But at this point, I was just like, no, I'm not going through this. Like, I'm good. Like, that's the homie. You feel me? Like, I'm cool. It's like, nah, God. And I was like, maybe I should pray. And then I was like, nah, I'm good. Like, I'm not going to pray because I'm thinking you're still in a relationship.
Yeah. And I was in and out of that relationship anyway, so no one even knew. Like, I didn't probably even know.
You didn't even know.
No.
Dang, that's bad. You didn't even know. Are we together or no?
I was probably blocked, but still in a relationship.
Y'all, we told you this story is just
it's terrible.
But we praise God for redemption and growth and healing. So yeah, like I told God, I'm not praying for a woman who's in a relationship, but I end up praying. And then after you spoke, did a phenomenal job. You shared your story. We had a conversation maybe a few weeks later while I was in the car, and that's when I found out you were actually single. So
he said, my time is now. The time is now.
I said, God, I'm going to still mind my own business. I'm going to focus on what I got going on. I'm going to keep praying. But God, I ain't really, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to mind my business. Never mind. Let me mind my business. Anyways, so you're now out of this. Ooh, go ahead.
I don't know. The relationship was just terrible. Like, there was a lot of love, but it was an unhealthy kind of love. And I think it was very like one-sided. So then once I left that relationship, I was a mess. Like, I was so toxic, and I hated men, and I wanted like pretty much nothing to do with them, and I just didn't trust anyone because I had been so hurt before, and I just thought everything was like a scheme, like a manipulation tactic or something that was going to be used to like be held over my head. Or I was just really in no place to date anyone, and I just kept going back to that relationship. So it was one of those things where it was like, oh, we're bad for each other, but we're going to get married one day. So we can just keep going back and forth until finally it was like, there's no more back and forth. Like, you have to just like cut this off completely. And that's when I thought, like, that's when I think my healing journey actually started. Because I would start this healing journey over, and then it's like the Band-Aid gets ripped off. You have to start over. And I was just in no place to date or be pursued or get married or anything like that.
Yeah. And what I heard was, I'm single.
Yeah, that's all
like,
you heard.
And that shows the toxic behavior that I had. Because I want to be very, very real. Like neither one of us like should have been even entertaining anybody.
No.
Like, I was really, really struggling with identity. Like, I was a new pastor, had identity issues, and I was actively like unpacking a lot of my trauma. And yeah, your case, right? Like, you had just been coming out of an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
Like an immensely emotionally abusive relationship. And for me, the lack of wisdom and discernment was like, man, this is what I want. In a way, eventually, because when you told me that you were single, I continued to pray, and I had no intentions of ever telling you that I was praying about you until that proper time. And then you wanted to actually be a part of the student ministry. So then I was like, okay, this is that moment to actually share with her. But I wrestled because I was like, on one hand, if I share with her out the gate, right, like, she may be like, oh, this is why you invited me down, whatever. Then on the other hand, if I don't share, then it comes out later. It could be this same exact thing. So, like, regardless, I was done up. Regardless of what direction, I had to tell you. I went and saw one of my mentors. He said, yo, just tell her, pray about it. He was like, if you do it God's way, you're in his will. So I prayed about it. I ended up telling her, and your response.
I was like, you're not my man. I know who my man is, and he is not you. Meanwhile, that was not my man, and God was going to rip me out of that. Like, I think God would have probably killed me off before he let me marry that man. He would have struck me down. But I was just like, no chance. But then, I don't know, I was just missing him, honestly. Let's keep it real. You were my friend.
Yeah.
And I missed you. But I mean, also,
she's fried. So keep it a stack. She curved me so hard.
Yeah.
I got curved so hard.
Repeatedly.
Like curveball.
Yeah.
You never played curveball? You're not from the hood. So this is a game called curveball where both people are on the other side on each side of the street, and you throw a basketball and you hit the curve.
And it hits the corner.
And it comes back.
Yeah.
Oh, you play curveball? What y'all used to call it in Elkhart, Indiana?
I don't know.
What is it, street ball?
Probably corner ball or something
corner
like that.
Ball?
I don't know. I don't know that I've ever played it. I think I just have seen it.
Okay.
Anyways, this doesn't matter.
So you curved me that hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shot back to the street.
Yeah, but every time I hit that curve and then I come back, you know what I'm saying? My mom,
Like
I was persistent. No. But realistically, you came back after you curved me.
I did.
Yeah. I was minding
like,
my business again. I had peace. Okay.
Yeah.
I was chilling. I said, God, I was just praying. Like, I had no, you know what I mean? And then I go to church. I come out of church one day. I look over, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I said. what the hell is she doing here? That's exactly what came out of my mouth. And then my mentor, who I had been going to about this, was on the left of me. I went, and at this point, my back is turned towards her, and I said, bro, you remember homegirl I was telling you about, woo to woo? He said, yeah. I said, why is she here right now? He said, where? I said, don't make it obvious, but she's right behind me. He looked, and he was like, oh, okay, I see you now. And I was like, what does that mean? And then I went over, I talked to you. You went into service. Mm-hmm. I went to be with the students. And then after service, we sat and we had a conversation. Mm-hmm. And that's when it got real.
Yeah.
I asked you, what's up, basically? And yeah, I'm going to let you praise the Lord.
I was just like, you know, I feel like this could be something, you know, but I was so unhealthy. So it's like, I knew in my heart, like I wanted him, but I just knew that it was not the right timing for us. So it's like, I didn't want to let it go, which at that point I should have just let it go and just healed on my own and then come back. But I was scared because, I mean, look at him, someone's going to snatch him up. And, so I'll let you say.
Yeah, I kept it a stack. Like, again, right? I 1000% agree with you. The right thing at the wrong time is the wrong thing.
The wrong thing.
The right person at the wrong time can literally screw everything up. Mm-hmm. And we have free will, so we have a choice. But I believe there were so many telltale signs that if we would have had good community around us at that point, and some discernment and some wise counsel, which you know, I had people, but I was isolating myself. Like, I just began to make decisions on my own. And so I told her in that moment, I said, if we walk through this door, I'm going to marry you, and it's wraps. Like, it's over with. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm now pursuing her. In your mind, you explicitly expressed to me, hey, I need to take my time. I need to heal. But again, young Tez, my guy, was not listening to none of that. Mm-mm. I just heard, this is the woman I've always wanted to be with. Mm-hmm. And now, but at the same time, I was just like, can I even get there again? Like, can I even develop that feeling for her? And, you know, but the reason why I believe I even went 0 to 100 now in my mind, right? We talk about attachment styles, and I had an anxious attachment style. Yeah. So it caused me to press in, to overpress for that matter. And I was completely unaware of that at that time. So like, I felt anxious about this. I don't know how long this person's gonna be around. So I gotta convince.
There was so much anxiety on my end too. I was so anxious all the time, and I was just so uncomfortable. Like, it was just like a very uncomfortable situation. Like, we weren't even really ourselves around each other because we were just both kind of like, I was like kind of reserved. He was kind of just like forcing it and trying to make me love him. And that made me more uncomfortable because I'm like, he's doing the most. But it was just bad. It was just
men
on another level.
We are to pursue, not persuade.
Yeah.
And I found myself trying to persuade her, not just for me, but for herself. Like, I was trying to basically persuade you of who you are, because I saw it. Like, that's the trouble I would often run into. Like, when I see something, I go 100 miles. Now, I'm way more cautious and discerning and wise now. Yeah. Still got a lot of growing to do, praise the Lord. But I used to just jump, like 0 to 100, go. And I found myself constantly trying to persuade you that I saw this potential. And why we don't pursue potential, because it's potential that this person would never become what the potential was. Right. And so around July, we go to youth camp. We have a moment where we're sitting under the lights. It's a romantic moment, right? These it's dark outside. The kids are doing their thing. You know, I needed a breather because I ended up getting sick that weekend. I was so stressed and just overworked. And we're sitting under these lights, and I tell you, I think God may be calling you to be my wife. First off, here's where, okay, I don't believe there's a one. I do believe our hearts stir towards someone. We seek the Lord, right? And he gives us, in his word, he gives us kind of a display of what we should look for and look at and pursue. He's like, don't be unequally yoked. You know, he gives an example of godly men and women in the Bible. And for me, I used to really be like, man, God said, God said, God said. And we hear so many times dudes go up to somebody and be like, God said, or even women, God said, you're my husband, or God said, my wife. And don't get me wrong, like, I don't think what I was hearing was wrong. Like,
I don't think so either, obviously.
It is wild because like, I really believe like I was just to pray.
Yeah. And be patient.
Yeah. And it's crazy because I literally thought of the story of Jacob when he had to work and that's a word. Like I literally had to just work and allow you to work. And we work in close proximity, but I'm not even hands off, like, and I'm just patiently working.
And that's so hard to do.
It is.
And I honestly don't think that we could have done it.
No.
Because we could.
No.
I mean, I know for a fact we couldn't have done it because we
did.
couldn't.
Yeah, we didn't.
We couldn't. Yeah.
So at that point, about a week later, we get together.
Yeah.
And then about a week after that.
After that, we broke up.
Let me be clear, fellas. No, I'm just playing.
What were you going to say? You
dumped
me?
I dumped her.
I know. I knew.
Straight dumped. I was like,
but I had no business being in that relationship anyway. And I mean, it was valid.
Yeah. It was not good at all. But I mean, in that moment, we were back and forth. After that, I was still trying to persuade versus pursue, and you were still doing what you were doing. And then around October, I lost my position due to sexual sin. And yeah, you just like, you dipped out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we didn't talk again until May of 2022.
Yeah. When this man is not a planner, but for me, he is. He planned this entire trip because I don't know if I just like mentioned, oh, I like Nashville, or if you just like wanted to go.
I knew you loved Nashville.
Yeah, I love Nashville.
Since college, I knew you loved Nashville.
And he was like, oh, we should take a road trip to Nashville. Like, we hadn't even been talking. Like, we really had not even been talking. And he's like, oh, like, let's go on a road trip. Makes an itinerary. When I tell you he planned it. He planned it down to the hour. Like, an itinerary, like, this is when we're leaving. This is what we're doing. This is where we're going. This is what restaurant we're eating at. We're kayaking. We're going here, here, here. And then, like.
And I wasn't genuinely, like, I wasn't, like, trying to get back with you or anything. I was really just trying to figure out, like.
Yeah.
And it was the worst way to figure out. But I was really trying to figure out, like, if we can even be just, like, friends. Like,
yeah.
Because at one point, we just would kick it. And we were just friends. And we were, like, close. But I knew every time I was around close proximity with you consistently, like, I knew, like, my feelings and everything of that sort, like, continued to develop. And so we went down there. We had an amazing time. And, yeah. So we went back to Indy, and on our way back there, I remember I told you, I didn't say like I necessarily have feelings, but I definitely said, you know,
you said you could never see yourself getting over me.
Yeah.
That's feeling. Those are real feelings. Yeah.
Now, mind y'all, she remembers everything.
Everything.
My mind be like hazy sometimes, but she remembers a lot of stuff. So I basically was just, I told her, I was like, man, if we're still in this place or in close proximity, my feelings will grow. We'll be right back where we are. So, and I shared a whole bunch of other stuff. Now, we have two different communication styles or processing styles. For me, I'm a talker. I'm an external processor. She's an internal processor. I understood this. And so I gave her the time and the space. I said, you take your time. And how much time now, mind you, I understand now that I should never place an expectation on how long someone takes. It would be helpful, and it would even be, healthy in a way to for that person to respond in an adequate amount of time. But
yeah. And I think I do now. I think I come back like the next day and I'm like, this is what hurt me, But back then I was just, I didn't know how I was feeling. And I think my heart and my head were just in two completely different places. And so I was just very conflicted because it's like my heart wanted him. Like I have always just loved him. But my head was just all over the place with feelings and emotions, and I was still trying to heal from my other relationship, and it was just I couldn't get there, but I just didn't want to cut it off. So I was like, I'm just not going to say anything and we'll just see what happens. And then he came back to me a week later. He's like, actually, you know what? I'm cool off this. Like, this is unhealthy and this is not the way that I want to operate anymore. Like, I'm sorry, but like, we like hit the road.
Yeah. And I was, when I tell y'all I was donezo.
Yeah.
Oh, I was through.
Yeah.
I walked away and like at that point I was just like, it is what it is. And I really, really meant it in that moment. And I mean, even to the degree where I'm like, well, I guess I was crazy. Right? Like, I guess I was hearing some stuff and it was just, because we know the Bible talks about how the heart is deceitful. Mm-hmm. It's wicked, and like, this is why for me in that moment, it was very, very clear, hey, maybe what's in my heart is what I desire and it may not be the will of God. Mm-hmm. So if this is the will of God and if this is really God, literally, I need to give it to him and I need to keep it moving.
Right.
And literally to the degree where I started dating somebody else. Mm-hmm. I was dating this young lady for about 4 months.
Okay. Ladies, don't do this. From experience, I'm going to tell you, don't.
We told y'all this story was super toxic, but we got a God.
Don't text him. Like, I knew that I should not, but I
followed your heart,
wanted him. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I gotta have him. Like, I knew he was in a relationship, but I was like, I have to try. Like, he can't live the rest of his life without knowing like how I felt about him, because up until this point I had been very like wishy-washy about my feelings towards you, and I had never actually told you, oh, like I like you or I have feelings for you, or like the depth of my feelings for you. And I picked the worst time ever to do it, and it is so toxic, and I accept the responsibility for this. But I sent him a novel, like texted him a novel.
Harry Potter text message.
Knowing he was in a relationship with someone else. And he didn't respond. And I knew he wouldn't, just because he's not that guy. He's very, respectful, and he's not, gonna go behind his girlfriend's back to talk to me or anything like that. So I figured he wouldn't respond. And so then I was like, I've left it out on the table. Like, he knows how I feel. And that was pretty much it. I went to church the next week and I talked to his best friend and I was like, hey,
he gave her that work. Like, so I introduced her to my best friend. They ended up going to the same church. They started to really build a friendship, mm-hmm. Kind of foreshadowing how we even got here. Mm-hmm. But I told him that next morning, I said, bro, why is there a text message from Janessa on my phone?
Yeah.
And it's saying this, and that. Immediately, we all hop on a FaceTime. And he said, bro, I wasn't going to share anything about any of our conversations. I said, I respect that. Like, I appreciate that, because I don't want to think about her. Like, I'm chilling. Like, and I was already really wrestling with a lot of, like, personal things as well, even within that relationship. Like, I wasn't really sure. Like, and I was really trying to take my time, but it went from 0 to 100, mm-hmm. and grateful. Like, it really wasn't like on my part But that's neither here nor there. So he was like, yeah, she did come to me, and I told her, do not text him. And she did. And he gave you that word the next week. Like, he was just like, bro, you know what's up. Like, fam, you followed your heart, right? Which is why people
No, don't do that.
don't like follow your heart. Ooh.
Because it ended up, so he ended up breaking up with his girlfriend for reasons that are
all completely unrelated to her.
Later, like way later. I would say probably like a month
or so.
Yeah. And we ended up talking and like hanging out, and then he came back to me the next day and he was like, you know what, like I just can't get there with you. Like I don't see you like that anymore. And I think part of it in part was because of that message. Like I had hurt you and I had disrespected your relationship and I had gone like way over the line following my own heart, but more than anything, like knowing what was right and what should have been done, which was nothing. Because at the end of the day, like if it's from God, God will handle it and he will like bring you back together. But I was just not willing to wait, or just being so, manipulative and
Yeah. So we didn't talk at that point. I think it was like
7 months.
7-8 months. And yeah, I mean, at that point, we were both individually doing the work.
Yeah, we had no contact whatsoever. Like, I think we were probably both blocked on each other's ends.
Yeah, even my best friend, like, never really mentioned her at all. And so we were individually finally, right? What we should have been done in the first place.
Yeah, just minding our business,
to doing
healing,
the work. Yeah, like
really healing for real this time though. Like taking time to address like wounds and resolve conflicts and just become who God has called us to be, not with the intentions of persuading anyone else to like us or to show like what you lost. Cause that was my thing before. Like I would always just be like, oh, I'm going to show him what he lost. But at the end of the day, like it doesn't matter because your will, God's will for you outshines all of that.
Facts. And I wasn't even paying attention.
Yeah.
I was minding my business, getting buff in the gym.
You were blocked anyway, so you couldn't have seen it.
So, yeah, I think after that, right around March, I had been really walking in a level of purity that I had never, in freedom that I never experienced. And so part of my journey was like making amends with people that I hurt in the past. And so I started reaching out to people, and my best friend came to me out of nowhere one day. I was literally at the mall getting some food, and he said, bro, is one of the people you gonna reconcile with Janessa? And I was like, in due time. Like I was in no rush. I was like, in due time. And so he came to me like a week later, and he was basically like, I think you should reconcile with her. And he didn't tell me any of their conversations. He was just like, I think y'all should reconcile. And I was like, well, I'll get to it, when I get to it. Like, and so I was like, well, I'm going out of town. Let me make this move. And so I literally reached out to her, and we had a conversation, reconciling, for all those things. And I asked her, just like, I was just curious kind of where she was, like in her healing journey. No, like not an ounce of intention or reason why, but just because like I always had cared for her. And so I was just like, man, so where are you at now? What has the Lord been doing in your life? And then we basically reconcile. In that moment, I kind of sensed this, I can redeem that kind of moment. Like I can redeem any relationship. And it was like, oh, I can redeem this relationship.
Yeah.
And so after that, we had another conversation, and we were like, all right, what is God doing here? I sought out counsel, right? Because I was not doing what I did the last time. I sought out a plethora of counsel, and it just seemed like God was softening like everybody's heart around me. And they were like, dude, okay, nah, for real, fam. Like, this is really something to look into now that y'all are both in this better spot. And we want to go into the next part.
Yeah.
But I think they should wait.
I think they should wait too.
So you gotta wait to part 2 because we're gonna part 2 this thing because we've been talking for quite a while.
Ooh,
and
what's part 2?
I don't know when is part 2. Whenever I unload all this stuff, we got more storage of this time. Man, I appreciate y'all for tuning into this episode of Infinite Grace TV. Again, my name is Tez, and I am back out quiet.